And every Tuesday we will be here with our Sports Garage Extra, where we will be reviewing the weekend action, what happened over the weekend. And of course, because we know we usually have Monday football, so Tuesdays will be that day when we do that. And then on Friday, we will be previewing what is coming over the weekend and what will have happened between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. My name is Sami Mura and
Karaoke Thige, KT.
Yes.
Happy to be here for that extra because, you know, the world of sports doesn't just revolve around the weekend. A lot of stuff happens, how the weekend closes, and then how the week begins. We also have nights where we have a lot of midweek football, midweek sports action, and we're here to break it down for you, give you the download on all that's happening in matter sports.
Interestingly, our very own Kapi, at some point, we had this conversation and he was like, no, you guys cannot just be coming here every Saturday. You have to do something. And from that conversation, a couple of weeks down the line, we are here.
Yep, here to unpack it all for you. This particular edition, we are looking at what happened in the EPL. It was a very, very busy Sunday as well.
Why don't you want to talk about Saturday? You're already starting with Sunday, not Saturday. Because I think on Saturday we had some really interesting games. And there's one that we will ignore because we spoke extensively about it.
Yeah. You can't just be talking about the same team, at every other week, every other show. Nah. There's a lot more that goes around. Of course, one of the other things that we'll be looking at, we've just had the closure of the winter transfer window and some interesting moves that were to happen that didn't eventually happen. Yeah, so there's lots to unpack within this hour, Morale. Let's get right to it.
Why don't you want to talk about the Kenya Premier League? Because it so happens that every time we are talking about the Kenya Premier League, we are discussing a controversy. And yes, we will be having one of those, actually two controversial moments happened over the weekend, same game, but we will be getting into that. But first, let's get into the EPL action because on Saturday we had several games that were played. The first game, Brighton-Everton, ending 1-1. And it's looking like Everton are really, really struggling at the moment despite having David Moyes back. They don't really have that mojo. They started the season really well, very solidly, but of late they've been struggling. They're losing matches. At least they managed to get a draw away, which was very good for them. But Thige, it's not looking very rosy for Moyes. He's within his comfort zone because he was always, when he was previously at Everton, he always finished between position 8 and 10. And they were very comfortable with him being there to a point where they never wanted him to leave. And when he left for Manchester United, he put Manchester United in the same positions. And to be quite honest, even as they fired him, I don't know what the board at Manchester United at that particular moment expected, because the guy performed as per his previous performances, and he was within the range that he had been previously, position 8.
Yeah, well, not much has changed with regard to Everton. They're still in that same area. They have seemingly been comfortable with that position. They're presently 10th in the log standings in the EPL this year. So nothing much has changed. The only thing about Everton that, if you ask me what has changed in this particular David Moyes team, is that we have normally seen an Everton team that is resplendent or that represents England. And you've had a lot of traditional English representation. Right now, you look at the forward line, the man who scored their goal, the man who's leading their line, he's coming to replace Calvert-Lewin, who's since left Everton.
For Leeds,
yes,
where he's performing really well at the moment.
Leeds United,
yes.
Now performing very well. Mm-hmm. The player they have is Beto, who comes away from England. And so that's just a sign of the fact that a lot is changing in the Everton team. But I believe when you look at that weekend, Muriah, Everton, Brighton is not really the highlight. We have some games that are definitive of where the season is going.
Very, very true. But unfortunately, I still will discuss this team as much as I don't want to. Arsenal beating Leeds by 4-0. And I remember on Saturday when we were here, one of the main statistics we literally spoke about was the fact that the strikers at Arsenal were not scoring goals. And it's like that day they were listening to the show because all of a sudden the striker switched on.
It is clear that Mikel Arteta and his team are fans of the Sports Garage. Thank you very much, Arteta and squad. Keep watching, keep listening to Sports Garage because immediately after we spoke about the fact that in 10 matches, none of the main strikers had scored more than one goal, and they came in hammering them in. Noni Madueke on target, Victor Gyökeres on target, Gabriel Jesus on target. that is a bit of a turnaround, although corner kick football still continued.
Well, corner kick football, not just the opening goal. Actually, 3 of their goals were from set pieces. Because I remember you and I were analysing that, and one of the things that we really pointed out was the fact that 3 of their goals were from set pieces. Actually, the only goal that was scored in open play was the Jesus goal.
Oh yeah, Gabriel Jesus down through the middle, a rare goal from Arsenal. The other goals, hata kama si corner, inapigiwa, cross inapigiwa hapo karibu tu na hiyo corner. So generally, the same kind of football that people are decrying and saying, yeah, it's nice that Arsenal is leading now. They've opened up a 6-point league, courtesy of another game that we need to mention. But the football is still that type of football that leaves you with a bitter taste in the mouth.
Well, that football that leaves you with a bitter taste in the mouth. But yes, Arsenal did win their match 4-0. That saw them literally extend their lead at the top. Wolves, Bournemouth, that one ended 2-0 in favour of Bournemouth. Now, the other game I wanted us to talk about is a London derby that was played between Chelsea and West Ham. And that game was a cracker of a match. We watched that match with you. And one of the key highlights for me, as much as we want to talk about the comeback from Chelsea, because at halftime there were 2 goals down and it looked like it was done and dusted. But then Liam Rosenior making some really interesting changes at halftime, and those changes literally changed the game.
Yep, it seemed to happen. There were 2 matches where we saw the leading team eventually lose the entire game, and this was one of them. The other game was between Liverpool and Newcastle. Newcastle coming in and leading, eventually losing that game. But then we're sticking with this. The game against started very, very positively for West Ham, hammering 2 goals in, and by the time you're getting to halftime, 3 substitutions, 3 interesting subs, all done at the same time. Then they bring in Fofana, they bring in Joao Pedro, and they bring in Cucurella. The very first goal in the 57th minute coming from Joao Pedro. Basically, looking at Rosenior, you see immediately this is a manager who's spot on. He's watching the game and he reads the game and is able to make adjustments midweek or mid-game.
Yeah.
There are very few managers who are good at this.
But we even started seeing his players warming up way earlier. Because I remember at some point he called Garnacho over, had a word with him, and it's like Garnacho didn't do what he was being told to do. And we started seeing players warming way before halftime.
Yeah, Rosenior, of course, second-generation footballer. Of course, his father,
Leroy,
having had a stunning career. Leroy Rosenior, of course, some years back. And his son coming in, had a career as a footballer. But then as a manager, he seems to be making his mark. We're just mentioning that after December, after he was hired, he basically is leading the league. If you just calculate points from the time
he's only lost 1 game
came in, I think now he has 7 out of 8 games that he's won. So that's really amazing. And all of a sudden you're starting to look at Chelsea and saying, wow, if they continue this way, it would be a bitter battle for the top 4 spots. Manchester United clicking at the same time. Liverpool also seeming to have found their scoring boots on. It's looking like an exciting end to the season.
Well, an exciting end to the season. Liverpool versus Newcastle. That one ending 4-1 in favour of Liverpool. And we need to talk about Konate's goal. And the main reason why I want us to discuss it is because when he scored his goal, he started crying. And a lot of people were wondering why Konate was crying. But that's because he recently lost his father. And Brazilian goalkeeper and Liverpool goalkeeper Alisson ran the whole field to go and console him, because same thing happened to him 2 years ago where Alisson lost his dad. And so at that particular moment, it was a very emotional moment. And this was a player who understood what his teammate was going through. And he went there to encourage him and to console him. And it was a very touchy moment.
Yeah, clearing the length of the field to go celebrate and also empathize at the same time. It was an emotional moment for Konate. The other reason is he's been one of the characters who are most responsible for some of the goals that this Liverpool side has conceded. Ukweli semwe, this guy has been licking.
Unajua bosi yako area na bosi ni fan wa Liverpool.
No problem. The better, even better, if they can follow and also advise Slot to be an avid fan of the Sports Garage. It seems it's changing the tide for Arteta.
Yeah.
So it might just change the tide for them, because Konate has been one of the holes, through which one of the gaps that are leaking in that defense. And it was nice to see him on the other end of the pitch making amends by scoring a goal. But if you ask me, Moriah, the guy who takes the cherry on this one is Hugo Etikite. He was amazing.
Oh, he scored two brilliant goals.
The skill, man, the skill involved, that outside right of the boot, and then he just does it so unexpectedly in both scenarios. The Western goalie has no chance at all.
You know, we are not watching video, but I suspect right now, Mesfin might actually be playing those Etikite goals. He's our producer, and he's a Liverpool fan as well. But those are beautiful goals.
Those sweet goals. Some of the things that you live to watch in this game, the moments to live for in this game of football, is that kind of stuff. You go Etikite.
Amazing. Sports Garage. Xtra.